Right, today's goal, we're going to solve multi-step equations involving decimals. So yesterday, or in the previous lesson, we solved multi-step equations involving integers. Now we're going to step it up a little bit and add some decimals into the mix. All right, let's do a quick review. Do you remember how to divide decimals? Okay, what is the quotient of 0.4175 divided by negative 0.25? All right, how did you do? What was your answer? All right, let's look at the correct way to do long division with decimals, okay? I know my answer is going to be negative. Look at all the choices. They're all negative. I have positive divided by a negative, so my answer is negative. Okay, now what we're going to do is do some long division, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to do 0.4175 divided by 0.25. But if you remember how to divide decimals, we cannot have a decimal out here. We can have a decimal inside, but not on the outside. That's the divisor. So what we got to do is we're going to move this decimal two places. We're going to clear it, 1, 2. So that means that would clear, right? And now I would have 25. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite the problem over here, 25. Okay, and then, but if I move this one 2 places, I need to move the other one 2 places. 1, 2. So the decimal is going to change, and it's going to be between the 1 and the 7. So now I have 41.75. Okay, so now let's divide. Okay, I know 4 divided by 25, we cannot do that, right? 4. So let's focus on 41. How many times can 25 go into 41? What's 41 divided by 25? Well, that goes into it one time, right? If we take it out, that means we're left with, we're going to borrow from the 4, that becomes a 3, the 1 becomes 11, so 11 minus 5 is 6, 3 minus 2 is 1. Let's bring down the 7. All right, how many times can 25 go into 167? Count by 25s, right? You got 25, then 50, then 75, then 100, then 125, then 150, then 175. So it's actually 100. So I can take out 150, right? That means that's 6 sets of 25. 6 times 25 was 150. That means I'm left with 17. And then we'll bring the 5 down, 175, right? And then 175 divided by 25, well, will be 7. Okay, so that means that's a perfect 175. Take that away. I don't have a remainder. All right, so now all we need to do, right, is it's not choice A. Okay, maybe you wanted to do this in the beginning. You see where the decimal is? It's right there. All you need to do is bring it straight up. So it's going to be between the 1 and the 6. So 1.67, that means, remember we said our answer was going to be negative. So choice C. All right, another thing I want to talk about with division, and in this case dividing decimals as well, is we don't have to do that long division that I just showed you guys, right? Long division. Okay, we can represent, a division problem as a fraction. Okay, every fraction is a division problem. So look at this quotient. Okay, what is the quotient of 12 and 8/10 divided by 4 and 8/10? So what I could do, okay, instead of writing it out as a long division, right, as we would do 4.8 on the outside, and then on the inside you got the 12.8. Instead of doing that, we could write it like this: 12.8 over 4.8. And then remember what we did in that last problem. We have to clear the decimals though. So we have to move this one time, and we'll move this one time. If we move this one time, we move this one time. If we move it 2 times, we move them both 2, right? We're just trying to clear the decimals. So that means I'm left with, there's no more decimals, right? 128 divided by 48. Okay, and then we could just simplify these two numbers, right? I know I can divide both of them by 4. Okay, so let's try that. Let's see what happens if I divide both of these by 4. So 128 divided by 4, that will give me 32. And then 48 divided by 4, that will give me 12. I can divide again. Okay, I can divide both of them by 4 again, looking at it. Okay, so this is just repeated division. But if you divided by 8, you probably would have got there a lot closer, but that's okay. 32 divided by 4 is 8. 12 divided by 4 is 3. Okay, then we got to change that, right, to 2 2/3. Okay, so again, you can divide, not necessarily using long division, right? You can make it a fraction and then simplify. All right, so maybe these skills will come in handy. I'll see you guys in the next video. Hey students, welcome to our next math lesson. Today's lesson is Unit 5, Lesson 15. We're in Section A. It is called Solve Multi-Step Equations with Fractions. All right, we have 2 videos. Let's look at our goals today. We're going to solve multi-step equations with fractions, as well as solve multi-step equations with any type of rational number. So we could have decimals and fractions. So we're putting everything together right now in this lesson. All right, let's start up with a warm-up. All right, do you remember how to write a fraction as a terminating decimal? Okay, write 6/30ths as a terminating decimal. All right, how did you do? Okay, so now remember we could write it as a fraction, and then we could simplify. I could divide both of these by 6 like that, and I'll get 1/5. Okay, so and then I could change that, but let's just write it as a decimal using division. So I'm going to do 30 on the outside and 6 on the inside. So we know, and I know 1/5 now. I know what 1/5. My answer should get 0.2. So we gotta divide, but I can't do 6 divided by 30. I can't do that. That's too much. So what we're gonna do is, well, it's gonna be 0, right? And then I'm gonna add the decimal point that's always there. It's just hidden, and I'm gonna add another 0. Okay, so now I'm gonna just move this decimal point to the straight up. And now I can do 60 divided by 30. How many times can 30 go into 60? Well, it goes into it twice. Okay. And then 2 times 30 is 60. So I take that away and then I have no remainder. So there's my 0.2. All right. So remember, when you have fractions, you might be able to change them to decimals. All right. And some common fractions as decimals. These are ones I want you guys to have memorized. Okay. So there are some fraction and decimal equivalents that are just easy to convert because we know it, right? So what are the following as decimals? Okay. What's 1/2 as a decimal? This is one we should know, 0.5. Okay. So whenever you see if a number, right, says if it says 41.5, I know this is 41. The 0.5 means a half, so I can write it as a mixed number like that. Right? If you have a number that's 127.5, okay, we know, okay, 127, the decimal means and, 127 and 1/2. Okay, make sure we remember how to do that. What about 1/3? 1/3 is 0.333. It keeps going on forever, threes, okay? Or we can write it as 0.3 with that little hat on top. This means that 3 is repeating forever and ever, okay? So if we know 1/3, okay, we should also know 2/3 then. Okay, if 1/3 is 0.33, that 2 of them, right, double 3, what do you get? 6. So this is like saying 0.6666, and it keeps going on forever. Or we do 0.6 with the little hat on top. All right, what about the next one? A quarter. Right, if you have a quarter, you have 25 cents. Okay, 25 cents. So now that I know 1/4, I could figure out 2/4, because that's another 25, or 0.25, another 25 cents. 2/4 is 50 cents, 0.50. But notice 2/4 is the same as 1/2, right? 0.5, I can add a 0 there. Okay, and then you should know 3/4, right? Okay, I get 25, 50, and then 75. All right. So now if you see a number that says 4 and 4.75, 4 and 75 hundredths, you can say, well, that's 0.75. So this is 4 and 3/4 because it's 0.75. 1/5 is another one. What's that equal? Well, you remember we just did that one in the other problem. This is 0.2, okay? 0.2. If we know 1/5, we know 2/5, right? 0.2, add another 0.2, 0.4. You see, it's kind of going up by twos. 3/5, right? 0.2, 0.4, 0.6. And then 4/5 equals 0.8. So you see that pattern. And then finally, 1/10. Okay, 1/10 is 0.1. Okay, you've probably seen things where you've probably had numbers like 4, 4.1. Well, this first decimal is a tenth, right? There's a tenth. So this is actually saying like 4 and 1/10. Okay, if you know 1/10, you know 2/10. 2/10 is actually the same as 1/5. It simplifies to 1/5. So 2/10 is 0.2, and 1/5 is 0.2. 3/10 is 0.3. 4/10, 0.4. Notice 4/10 is the same as 2/5, 0.4, 0.4, and so on and so forth, right? 5/10, right? That is 0.5, but 0.5, 5/10, that's the same as 1/2. So you can see all these patterns, and you can do 6/10 and 7/10 and 8/10 and 9/10, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9. Okay. The sooner you can memorize these, the easier some of these problems will be for you. All right. So I'll see you guys in the next video, and we will be solving equations, multi-step equations with fractions.